Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be revisiting a rather touchy subject that I'm sure will raise some cheers and jeers. This is part 2 of the games that I played and then stopped playing, and that I have no intention of returning to. Now, if you didn't catch the first episode, I'll go ahead and link that right here and in the description. Just remember that not all of these are bad games, but some of them are very bad. These are the games I gave up on. Back in 2015, the Polish development team IMGN.pro released Kolot, a survival horror game based on a real-life incident involving a number of Russian students that went missing on a mountain hiking trip. While most had lost their lives to hypothermia, there were some unusual findings regarding the deaths of some of the other students. The game took advantage of this mystery by adding a strong paranormal presence to the story. The presentation of the trailer was top-notch, showcasing stirring visuals and boasting praise from numerous game critics. It even had Sean Bean performing the in-game narration. It seemed like a horror mystery fan's dream come true. Unfortunately, the immersion was lost on me with the slow, often boring flow of things. The user reviews on Steam are a mixed bag of love and hate, but like every character Sean Bean plays in a movie, my interest died before it was over. Tiny Keep is another game that I was very interested in shortly after it was released. It just looked like a cute little dungeon crawler with an easy to pick up and put down style of play, something I can just hop into if I want to beat up some monsters for a few minutes. Unfortunately, this one was less pick up and a lot more put down, because holy crap, this game's a mess. It's essentially a procedurally generated dungeon escape with monsters and lots of ways to use the environment against your enemies. All of that would make you think that it should be good. Sadly, the experience for me was ruined by the absolutely dreadful controls. Most people criticized it for the lackluster roguelike experience, but for me, the movement just felt too clumsy and unpolished. This is not a dungeon I'll be revisiting again. I played Far Cry ages ago, and while I was annoyed by the fact that the enemies seemed to be able to hear you step on a twig from 2 miles away, I did enjoy it enough to play through it twice. Many years later, I played Far Cry 3, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. But how non-OCD of me! I skipped Far Cry 2. Trying to remedy this, I picked it up and loaded it a few times, and for whatever reason I kept walking away from it to play something else. After a while, I decided to put an honest effort into playing the game, only to realize exactly why I was losing interest. The graphics were outdated, sure, but still great for the time it was released. And this is a frickin' Far Cry game with loads of good reviews. Unfortunately for me, the controls themselves just felt so outdated that I couldn't get into it. I gave it my best, and I moved on. Oh boy, this next one. Just talking about it makes me feel itchy. And if there's any proof in the world not to judge a game by its cover, Nether takes the cake. It ramped itself up as an online multiplayer survival horror based in a mutant apocalypse setting. It even had a very well-made cinematic trailer to push the dark reality of this nightmare world. Unfortunately, the first nightmare that I faced was trying to load the server list. I was using a decent system at the time, and the game was running horribly. Once I was finally able to start a game, I found myself wandering around a hellscape of massive frame drops. I managed to wander into a building somehow and found myself getting mauled by I don't even know what because I couldn't see anything. And on death, I was sent right back to the horrifically long loading screen. Back then it seemed as though the developers had abandoned the title despite the numerous bug reports and complaints being made. At long last, it did finally receive some updates and a name change to Nether Resurrected. But that didn't fix the experience for me. Many players continued to criticize it for having a toxic community. Even after the latest update, it wasn't long before the devs abandoned it once again. Playing it again now to get this footage, the frame rate is better, but holy crap, it's buggy and there are no servers. For some sad reason, it's still being sold on Steam, but please stay away from this hot mess. Jotun is another one of those games where good design is combined with intense difficulty. The artwork of this title is absolutely gorgeous, and I was really excited to give it a go. It's a bit similar to Titan Souls in the way that it's focused largely on boss battles, except that Jotun utilizes more exploration and has more variety in the gameplay. It's always sad to me when I find a game like this that ends up reminding me that I've been cursed with the reflexes of this guy. For anyone who enjoys taking on boss after boss after boss, I can't give Jotun anything other than praise. Unfortunately, I just wasn't up to the challenge of reaching Valhalla this time. As with the previous episode, I'll wrap this one up with an honorable mention, a game that drove me to the edge but hasn't quite tipped me away permanently. Subnautica is a game that I dropped massive hours into because I love a good exploration adventure, and it's entirely my fault that I had to put it down. I'd spent so much time building my bases and crafting vehicles and collecting resources, all to be ruined by one bad decision. Please, people, do not go to the edge of the map. Don't do it. I lost my submarine, and when trying to retrieve it, I lost my mini-sub, and then I lost my robo-suit, and you get the picture. While I'm giving it a nice long break, I will still come back one day to check out the Below Zero expansion. Once again, I'd love to hear your input in the comments. Let me know what you think. And that's it for this session. I hope you all enjoyed. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.